The burial of Joni Lamb and the events of that day was an eye-opener to everyone, and that is why I want to revisit this topic, this time with more clarity and detail. Based on everything that has played out publicly up to this point, Jonathan Lamb returning to Daystar television network in the near future seems very unlikely. Now, some of you might be asking, why say that? What makes me so confident? Take a breath, because we're going to walk through this carefully, step by step. This isn't just emotion talking. I'm looking at the public record, the family tensions that have been visible for years, the official statements that have been released, social media activity, and the overall direction this situation appears to be heading. When you lay all those pieces side by side, it becomes increasingly difficult to picture Jonathan simply walking back through Daystar's doors as if nothing ever happened. To be clear, I'm not making predictions about years down the road. No one can know that for certain. Families do reconcile. Circumstances change. Time has a way of softening even the deepest wounds. But right now, today, based on what we can all see publicly, a return for Jonathan looks highly unlikely. And one of the main reasons people are now saying this with more confidence comes down to what unfolded around Joni Lamb's memorial and burial, and particularly what Susie Lamb posted shortly after the burial ceremony. So stay with me. If you appreciate this kind of in-depth breakdown of church-related events and public Christian media stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's still much more to unpack, and I'll keep bringing updates as new information comes to light. Now let's really dig into this. Think about everything that has transpired between Jonathan, Susie, and Joni over the past several years, especially from around 2021, when what had been an internal family conflict became public knowledge. Initially, many people assumed this was a temporary misunderstanding that would quietly resolve itself behind closed doors. But as more details emerged, it became clear that the fractures within this family ran far deeper than most viewers had initially realized. Those who knew Joni Lamb often said that once she made a decision, she held to it firmly. Regardless of whether people agreed with her, she had a reputation for being resolute and strong in her convictions. Personally, watching how the family came together publicly during the memorial announcements, while Jonathan was largely absent from that public presentation, I couldn't help but feel that the divide within the family had reached a level of seriousness that many people still haven't fully grasped. One of the central issues that reportedly shattered trust within the family was the revelation that Jonathan had allegedly been secretly recording private family conversations during the height of the scandal. Those recordings eventually made their way online, and many believe that moment marked a permanent turning point. From that point forward, it appeared that trust within the family had completely collapsed. Why? Because according to those who followed the situation closely, some of the public statements Joni Lamb had previously made regarding Jonathan's frustrations over leadership at Daystar were later directly contradicted by the recordings that surfaced online.
I wanted to take a few minutes today to speak from my heart to the Daystar family and friends. Recently, Daystar made the decision to terminate my son Jonathan Lamb's employment. That decision was not taken lightly. It followed a 15-month review of Jonathan's performance and his refusal to take any steps to satisfy a detailed performance improvement plan put in place. He also refused my offer to participate in a formal mediation to resolve grievances in a biblical and professional manner. Rather than take any steps to improve his performance at Daystar, it seems clear now that Jonathan was focused on fabricating a smear campaign. You see, Jonathan was extremely disappointed that he was not named the future president of Daystar following the death of his father and my husband, Marcus Lamb, despite the fact that Marcus had given a clear directive to the family and to the board that I would succeed him as president. Jonathan's disappointment in not getting his way only deepened when I married Dr. Doug Weiss, who has been such a blessing to me, the rest of my family, and Daystar. I can tell you that as a mother, as a grandmother, this situation saddens me deeply, and it grieves my heart because I love my family. I love all my children. I love my grandchildren. I love the work we've done together for so many years. And I had hoped that we could have resolved the situation in private. But now, Jonathan has given me no choice except to speak out. Everyone knows that we have dedicated our lives to spreading the love of Jesus. And to see it attacked by my son Jonathan and his wife is truly heartbreaking. I want to assure you that all the allegations that are circulating against myself and my late husband are completely false. We have already begun to take legal steps to defend ourselves, and we will address the accusations in a God-honoring way. We stand firm in our faith, knowing that God is with us, and His purpose for Daystar is far greater than any present challenge we may be facing. While this attack is very painful and wrong, I know that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against a spiritual enemy who seeks to destroy and divide no matter what the cost. I want to ask you for your prayers. Thank you for your continued love and support. Our team here at Daystar will keep you updated. Again, thank you for your prayers. God bless you.
Many of the people who listened to those recordings began to seriously question the accuracy of the explanations that had been offered publicly about the conflict. And the reality is, once private conversations spill into the public domain, especially within a ministry that is also a family business, the path back to normalcy becomes almost impossible to find. From that point forward, positions on both sides appeared to calcify. Public opinion fractured sharply. Some rallied behind Jonathan and Susie, while others stood unmovably in Joni's corner alongside the remaining Daystar leadership. Even now, years later, those recordings are still circulating online, still fueling conversations, and still shaping how people interpret everything that unfolded. Another thread that serious followers of this story have picked up on is the deep-rooted tension between Joni Lamb and Susie Lamb. Based on reports and discussions that emerged throughout the controversy, Joni reportedly believed that Susie held enormous sway over Jonathan's thinking and decision-making. The claim that surfaced repeatedly was that Jonathan would privately agree to something, then come back later with a completely reversed position, seemingly after conversations at home. Whether or not that interpretation is accurate, it became a central part of the conflict's narrative, and when you step back and view the full picture honestly, it becomes apparent that the relationship between Susie and Joni had already quietly deteriorated long before the public fallout exploded into full view. Anyone who has followed this story closely over the years can likely recall multiple moments where the friction between both sides became impossible to ignore. Some reports went as far as claiming that Susie openly voiced her discomfort regarding Doug Weiss and made no attempt to conceal it. Agree with her or not, those tensions reportedly poured fuel onto an already burning division within the family. I personally listened to those recordings and covered them here on this channel. There were also reports that members connected to Susie's side of the family were removed from positions tied to Daystar. And once a conflict begins reaching beyond one individual and starts pulling extended relationships into the fallout, the road to reconciliation grows dramatically steeper because the emotional weight on every side multiplies. Now let's turn to the memorial itself, because this is the moment that pushed many viewers from suspicion to near certainty that Jonathan's standing within the family remains deeply fractured. Throughout the memorial coverage and broadcasts, countless people watching online noted that Jonathan seemed almost invisible within the public presentation. Some viewers went further, claiming he appeared to be deliberately excluded from certain camera shots or was barely acknowledged during key portions of the event. Whether that was intentional or not, that perception moved through social media like wildfire. According to Anointed TV, a close friend of Jonathan Lamb became visibly upset and walked out of the burial venue over how Jonathan was being treated. That alone speaks volumes about how severe the separation has become. Naturally, once people began observing all of this, the questions started pouring in. Why does it feel like Jonathan is being deliberately sidelined at one of the most significant family moments in Daystar's history? Why does the public presentation feel so deliberately curated? Why does it appear as though the family is consciously moving forward without him? The uncomfortable answer is because in many ways that appears to be exactly what is happening. Daystar has moved forward without Jonathan Lamb. What remains unclear is whether that separation is entirely by their choice, his choice, or some painful combination of both. To be fair, we do not have access to every private conversation or behind-the-scenes development. Grief is complicated under any circumstances, and grief layered on top of years of unresolved conflict creates an emotional environment that is almost impossible for outsiders to fully understand. But publicly, the memorial appeared to confirm what many had already quietly concluded, that the rift between Jonathan and the rest of the family has reached a deeply serious, possibly irreversible stage. We all know how central Susie is to Jonathan. She is his backbone, his loudest advocate, and it seems entirely possible that she was the driving force behind pushing the child abuse scandal into the open, determined to see justice served for the children involved. But in doing so, all of that fight, all of that courage appears to have been transformed, in some people's eyes, into something darker, into hatred. Consider the possibility that Joni Lamb, before she passed, may have left specific instructions about Jonathan's role, or lack thereof, at her memorial. If she had reached a point where she did not want to see him during her illness, it is not unreasonable to conclude that such an instruction may have existed. And if that is the case, it raises questions that have not yet been publicly answered, questions that perhaps Rachel and Rebecca need to address directly. What has happened between them and their only brother? Because at its core, this conflict originated between Joni and Jonathan, ignited by Doug Weiss's marriage to Joni. So how did it spread to consume those sibling relationships as well? Meanwhile, the striking display of unity among the remaining family members during the memorial did not go unnoticed. That unified front sent a message, loud and clear, to everyone watching. It suggested that the internal alignment of Daystar's leadership may already be firmly consolidated in a new direction. And if that consolidation is as complete as it appears, the idea of Jonathan returning to any meaningful leadership role becomes harder to justify with each passing day. This naturally leads into a conversation many viewers are already beginning to have about long-term leadership succession. Between Rachel Lamb and Rebecca Lamb Weiss, the prevailing belief among followers of this story is that Daystar's future will remain anchored within that branch of the family. From everything that has been publicly observable, Rachel appears to be positioning herself for the more prominent long-term public-facing role, though that remains an observation, not a confirmed fact. Questions are also swirling around Doug Weiss and whether he will maintain a consistent presence on Daystar's programming going forward. Based on current trajectories, it would be far from surprising to see him continue holding a visible role on the network in some form. There are also ongoing questions about Jimmy Evans, whether he attended the burial, and how he fits into the broader current landscape surrounding all of this. That is a conversation I intend to explore more thoroughly in an upcoming video, because there are still reactions and details worth examining with care. But beneath all the commentary, the speculation, the social media debates, and the public opinions, this is still a family, a real family, dealing with real pain. And whenever a family fractures this publicly, especially one leading a ministry that millions of Christians across the world look to for spiritual guidance and inspiration, the damage extends far beyond the individuals involved. It ripples outward and touches countless people who have invested their faith and trust in what this family built. What remains undeniably true is that many of the most important questions still have no clear public answers. Perhaps with time, more of the truth will find its way to the surface. Perhaps reconciliation will one day become possible. Perhaps conversations that are currently buried behind closed doors will eventually come to light in ways that bring greater clarity and understanding. But until that day comes, all any of us on the outside can do is watch honestly, pray genuinely, and resist the urge to allow speculation to harden into judgment. Pray for the Lamb family, not with bitterness, not with a spirit of division, but with sincere hope for healing, for peace, and for the kind of restoration that only time and grace can produce. Thank you sincerely for watching and for your continued support of this channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any updates or future discussions covering this and other significant stories unfolding across churches and Christian media today. Stay discerning and remember, one truth at a time.